Hey everybody! Not long ago, I reviewed Phanteks P300A mid-tower case. It's an affordable enclosure that's nicely built and has plenty of features to keep most people happy. It comes with one 4-pin PWM fan, but lacks a front USB Type-C port. Currently priced around 70 bucks, I bought mine for 50. This was a sale price, which also included a $10 rebate on top of that. Definitely keep an eye out for discounts if you're interested in the P300A. It was easy to build in, and I think it's an ideal choice for anyone looking for an inexpensive case to house their PC parts. All in all, there are 4 A for airflow cases in the Phanteks Eclipse line. Since we started at the bottom with the P300A, let's see what the next level up brings to the table. Today we're going to open up and go over Phanteks P360A mid-tower case in white. Welcome to the Middle of Nowhere. Phanteks P360A comes in a brown box with black print that touts some of the case's features. The plain brown box is par for the course for most computer cases. The foam used is rather stiff, but should provide enough protection during shipping. As you can see, the glass side panel survived the shipping process. Released in October of 2020, the P360A can be seen as a slight upgrade to the P300A, and I'll go over how this is the case for this case in a bit. At a glance, the P360A is available in black or white, whereas the P300A is only available in black. Additionally, the P360A comes with 2 ARGB PWM fans instead of just one black fan. Finally, the light strip on the P360A travels the entire length of the case and is ARGB. By contrast, the P300A's light strip is shorter and only glows in white. As with the other A versions of the Eclipse cases, the P360A's front panel is completely mesh, allowing for better airflow. Priced at $80 at the time of this video, I would consider the P360A to still be a budget mid-tower case. This price isn't so high as to be out of the reach of most people's budgets. I've also seen it on sale for $10 less, making it even more of a tantalizing option to house your PC components. The question then becomes, what makes it worth spending an additional $10 over the P300A? What are you getting besides 2 ARGB fans and an ARGB strip instead of one regular fan and a white light strip? Let's find out. Getting to the accessories box is as easy as removing the front panel, pulling out a hard drive sled, and then taking the box out of that. All you have to do to remove the front panel is grab it from the bottom, pull out and lift away, and you're good to go. Here is that hard drive sled, and then you just unclasp it, and it'll pop right out. As you can see, there are some holes keeping it in as you would with a hard drive. This also denotes the toolless nature of the 3.5-inch hard drive installation, which is cool. Inside the accessory box, we get a plastic baggie full of screws and zip ties. An instruction manual. So basically how to install the panels, how to install a PSU, hard drives, etc. And then on the back side we have the cables that it comes with, the RGB cable, how to control the ARGB on the case through its buttons, as well as what the included accessories are. So just really simple. It's at least in color. I mean, where it counts, I guess, but it's mostly black and white. But anyway, yeah, that's it for the accessories. Oh, forgot one last thing. An RMA request form, so some customer service contact information should anything go awry with this case. The P360A is made of steel and glass. Some things, such as the storage trays, are made from plastic, and this is the same as with the P300A. As previously mentioned, you can buy this case in black or white. As I have the white version, I will say the paint is rather glossy and very smooth, although when you look at it kind of closely with the light reflecting, you can kind of see like a little wavy pattern to the paint. So I don't know, maybe that's just a paint process. And I am a little disappointed that the inside of the case is also not painted white, the frame. It's a rather matte black, which does look cool if you're going for a black and white build, but as I bought a white case, I would like the entire case to be white. Size-wise, the P360A is 455mm deep, 200mm wide, and 465mm tall. Compare that to the P300A, which measures 400mm deep, 200mm wide, and 450mm tall, and you can see the P360A is slightly larger. This means it will better accommodate larger GPUs and eATX motherboards, but not necessarily taller CPU coolers, which I'll get to later. The glass panel and other side panel are held on by 2 thumb screws. Each of these are captive, which is always nice. One way to save money was to shrink the glass panel to not go the entire height of the case. This means there's a small metal covering where the PSU and storage devices are, and this is the same as with the P300A. The front panel is super easy to remove by grabbing from the bottom, and the front I/O is not attached to it. There isn't a front dust filter as Phanteks intended, the front ventilation holes to also act as a filter because they are so fine. I do have concerns dust will still be an issue without a filter, but I also understand not wanting to restrict airflow too. Finally, the PCIe slot covers are reusable and also held on by thumb screws. There is a spot for vertical GPU mount, which can be purchased separately. The P360A case is rather sturdy with the panels on or off. There is a little bit of flex on the side panel, but nothing to be really worried about. There are visible fingerprints after touching it, but I don't feel it's as bad as with the P300A. Whatever kind of metal material or paint job that they used on that definitely attracted a lot of fingerprints. This might be prone to scratching more because it is a glossy finish, and I don't think there's any kind of protective clear coat. And one thing I did notice is that there is a rough patch right here with some scratches, like a little mini Wolverine went all over it. I don't know if you can see it, but it's here and then right here. So yeah, so maybe that's just a little QA control thing. But I think for the most part, fingerprints can be cleaned up. Hopefully some scratches can be filled in. But yeah, I really kind of like the glossy paint. At the top of the case, you'll find the front I/O for the P360A. There's an illuminated power button, separate headphone and microphone jacks, 2 USB 3.2 Gen 1 ports, and 2 buttons to control the RGB, one for mode and one for color. There are icons by the audio jacks and RGB buttons denoting which thing does what, and I like this added detail. As with the P300A, there is no USB Type-C port for the front, so do keep that in mind if your motherboard has a USB Type-C front header and you want to make use of that. As the P360A was released in late 2020, I guess I can give it a pass for not including this feature, but really any case released in the last year and from now on should have a Type-C port. Companies have got to stop treating Type-C ports as a luxury feature. Regarding the RGB controls on the case, there are 5 modes, and you can also control the colors as well using one of the 2 buttons. This one's for mode, this one will control the color. The RGB is also compatible with many manufacturers' software, including ASUS, Razer, Gigabyte, MSI, and ASRock. All you have to do is plug the case ARGB cable using an adapter to a 3-pin ARGB header for the motherboard. As with typical Phanteks fashion, the buttons are nice and super clicky. The P360A comes with 2 dust filters. There's one at the top to protect the top 2 fans that you can put up there from getting too dusty, and then there's one at the bottom. The top one is held on simply by magnets and is your typical round circle mesh that will do an adequate job of preventing too much dust from getting into your case. The second fan filter is at the back of the case on the bottom and is for your PSU. It's surrounded by a plastic frame and there's a nice little tab to help you be able to pull it out. You might have to lift up the case a little, however, to get your fingers on this little handle here. And this is a much more fine mesh. The case feet are plastic and lift the case up off the ground enough to provide some good airflow for the PSU to be able to take in fresh air. They are lined with a soft foam padding, which may not do a whole lot to keep the case from sliding, but will help dampen vibrations. They also do not appear to be held on by screws, but rather some kind of plastic nubs, which may make removing them from modding a little bit difficult. The P360A supports eATX motherboards up to 280mm, as well as ATX, MATX, and ITX motherboards. Using an eATX motherboard may put some constraints on cable management, so do keep that in mind. There's a generous cutout on the motherboard tray as well, so you'll be able to have access to the CPU bracket when the motherboard is mounted. The standoffs are pre-installed for an ATX motherboard, and the case comes with an extra should you lose one. Because they are pre-installed for ATX motherboard, if you go MATX, ITX, or even eATX, you will need to adjust those standoffs accordingly. Another little nifty feature of the center standoff for the motherboard is it does have the little nubbin to be able to kind of hold the motherboard in place while you're screwing it in, should you install it while the case is upright rather than on its side. Right there, that's where the little nubbin standoff is. So as you can see, it's nice and held on there, but you're gonna wanna quickly get to securing it by screwing it in. The P360A offers storage support for up to 5 drives. This is one more than the P300A. You can install 2 3.5-inch hard drives and 3 2.5-inch drives, or 5 2.5-inch drives. Access to the drives at the bottom of the case can be had by removing the front panel and then taking out a sled. Installation for 3.5-inch drives is toolless, but you'll need to use screws for 2.5-inch drives. I really like how you don't need to muck with the side panel to access the bottom storage. And just as I showed you already, with the accessories, you just take the panel off, squeeze, pull the tray out, and then this pulling these out rather, these flaps, unlocks the 3.5-inch hard drive. And then you just plop it in, bam bam, and then slide it back, making sure you do it correctly. And of course, if you want to do a 2.5-inch drive, there are screw mounts right there. Additional 2.5-inch drives can be installed on a sled that fits on the rear of the case, and it comes with 2. There's room for 3, but it only comes with 2, so if you want a third one, you're gonna have to buy it. By contrast, the P300 only comes with 1 sled. While I didn't like that the P300A only came with 1 sled for a 2.5-inch drive, I'm glad the P360 at least has 2. Yes, to include all 3 would be nice, but the odds of needing that many SSDs is pretty low, especially when you consider you can install 4 out the gate using the 2 at the bottom of the case, provided you're not using any 3.5-inch drives. As with the P300A, the P360A's front drive cage is also removable and is held on by several screws. If you don't need this installed, removing it will allow you to install a longer PSU, as well as to better stow away excess cables. To remove the 2.5-inch hard drive sleds, all you have to do is push up, and then you just simply pull out. And from there, you have your screws are on the sides, so then you'll screw in the hard drive and then reinsert. And then slide it down to lock into place. When it comes to GPU, CPU, and PSU support in the P360A, you can install GPUs up to 400mm in length. This means an Asus Strix OC or MSI Supreme X RTX 3090 will easily fit in this case. The case supports CPU coolers up to 160mm in height, which means a Vetru V5 at 148mm will definitely fit. A Cooler Master Hyper 212 at 159mm will barely fit, and unfortunately a beefy Noctua NH-D15S at 165mm will not fit. It's interesting that CPU cooler compatibility is 5mm less as compared to the P300A, and I'm not sure why this is. It's possible that 5mm of depth was added at the back for better cable management. Finally, you can install PSUs up to a length of 250mm, which includes cables. You'll install the PSU by inserting it from the side and then screwing it into the back. And as you can see right here, there are some little cushions or foam cushions for dampening any vibrations produced by the PSU, either its components or the fan. The P360A can hold up to 5 120mm fans or 4 140mm fans. You can install 2 120mm or 140mm fans in the front. You can install 2 120mm or 2 140mm fans at the top, and the rear can hold 1 120mm fan. The case, as previously mentioned, comes pre-installed with 2 120mm 4-pin PWM ARGB fans in the front. If you want to buy more of the same fan, you can either individually or in a 3-pack, and I'll leave a link in the description below. Compared to the P300A, you can install 1 more fan in total in the P360A. If you want to liquid cool your PC, you can install a 120, 140, 240, or 280mm radiator in the front, a 120mm or 240mm radiator at the top, and a 120mm radiator at the back. All these options means trying to do a custom loop inside a P360A might make for an interesting time. So you can see here we have the beginnings of a computer. I'm not going to install the memory or the CPU or anything, but I just kind of wanted to show you guys what it looked like to have a motherboard and GPU at least in here. Now that we've gone over PSU, GPU, and CPU cooler compatibility, I want to cover the cable management aspect. So rather than using grommets, Phanteks has opted to have this kind of like cable cover bar here, and it serves 2 purposes. One, to route cables through here, and then secondly, to provide a channel for cable management as well, because it's about a good inch deep, I'd say. On the other side of the case, closer to the rear I/O, there is plenty of depth to route your CPU, power cable as well. And then Phanteks has also provided 3 openings in the case itself. You have one here, which will be able to route your front panel connectors for your case, so the power reset hard drive activity light if it has that, as well as here where you can route your front panel audio and any other cable that might need to go there, such as a fan header. And then finally you have a hole right here, which will be used for if you want your GPU supplemental power. Now do be cautious with this hole here. Sometimes the PSU can actually interfere with it, especially if you have a wider one. This is a smaller PSU, I want to say, but if it goes further past the case, this hole then becomes blocked. You're not going to be able to really route it ahead of time, unfortunately. So here's the front audio. If you do intend to use this, there is room to get it through, so that's a good thing. On the P300A, there wasn't. I think the extra width that this case has kind of helped alleviate that issue and provide a bit more cable management room. But you can see here, plenty of room to go ahead and tuck that cable away. Whether or not it's long enough is the other question for it to be tucked away. But there are some cable tie down points along this edge here, so you'll be able to organize it as best you can with the length that it allows. And even if you get cable extensions, you'll even have more room to be able to really tuck it back like this and then get it to your motherboard. CPU cable is going to route through here, and I'll go ahead and plug in the CPU cable, or excuse me, the motherboard cable, just so that you guys can see what it looks like on the other side. So I'll show you that in a second, but now we can then pull it back and pin it here using these Velcro straps. Again, plenty of room. For the GPU, probably gonna route it through the bottom here. And of course, it's always dealer's choice, but the hole's there, so you can make use of that channel. I will say this, if you're not gonna make use of the hard drive cage here, definitely take it out. That way you'll be able to store all your excess cables real easily. Otherwise, you're gonna be putting it back here, which is fine too. But if you don't have a modular power supply, then you'll definitely want to not have to deal with that stuff. Okay, so we've turned the case around. You can see the GPU cable, and I think this would look really good if you had extensions. Right now it's kind of a mess. You're going to want to zip tie this extra, if you're not making use of 8-pin connectors or both on the little pigtail, then you're going to want to cinch it together to make it look nice. Use a zip tie. But you can see how the 24-pin comes through, and it doesn't look bad at all. So it just kind of sneaks in. So it's a way to manage your cables without having to use grommets, and grommets are just a little bit of an extra cost. So instead, Phanteks opted for this bar here. No big deal. So, and then you have plenty of room for any front I/O here, USB 2, some fan headers, etc., etc. So that is the cable management. And again, coming back to the back, plenty of hooks and loops as well for tying things down. They have these nice Velcro straps here as well, which are actually pretty strong. So that's a good thing. But again, if you have a non-modular power supply, you can see how tucking everything away, or even if you use cable extensions, tucking everything away might become difficult. But you also have some blank room here. So just, you know, like I said, cable management's more of an art. So just take your time and you'll be able to get through it. Conclusion time. Would I recommend you spend the extra money and buy the P360A over the P300A? Yes, I would. The P360A just has more to offer out of the box compared to the P300A, and really for not that much more money. This isn't to say I don't like the P300A. I do, especially at the $49.99 price I was able to buy it at, but that was a sale price. At its current price of $69.99, I cannot recommend the P300A over the P360A, when for not much more money, you get 2 ARGB fans over 1 non-RGB fan, 2 2.5-inch SSD drive caddies versus 1, more fan support, more radiator support, and larger GPU size support. My only real complaint about the P360A is a lack of a Type-C front port, some quality control issues when it comes to the paint, at least for my case, and that the interior isn't white as well. Other than that, Phanteks offers a really good case in the P360A, and at an affordable price. One thing to note, if you do buy this case for a future build, I definitely recommend buying an extra fan to put at the rear for exhaust, and as I've already stated, I've put a link to the fans that come with this case, as Phanteks sells them separately, in the description below. And that's all I have to say about the Phanteks P360A. What do you think of this case? If you're interested in the P360A or already own one, let me know what your thoughts are on it down below. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hit that like button if you liked the video or at least found it helpful. Feel free to share any questions or comments you have down below. You can show your support for the channel by clicking subscribe, and don't forget to click that notification icon so you don't miss out on any future content. Speaking of future content, I'll be going over this bad boy next. It's the P300A's and P360A's bigger brother, the P400A. So definitely get subscribed so you don't miss out on that. And hey, while you're here, stick around and check out some of the other videos I've made. I'm Seth, and I'll see you next time in the middle of nowhere.